Many times I feel sad when the Nabbajas and their friends begin deceiving the Ugandans that what policies do they offer? What do they have? What alternatives do they offer? So I just want to remind them today that the office of the leader of the opposition from 2006 has been giving policy options, has been giving alternative statements. And so, Lop, thank you today that again you are bringing us here to let them know that if they are not reading, it has not been our problem. But you have been having compendiums of policy options. Thank you that the Ugandans are receiving from your office and the able members of parliament who are here, who belong to the alternative government, the alternative budget. And I want to congratulate you, colleagues, for this milestone. Uganda is not a poor country like many people think, or like our leaders want us to believe. Uganda is a nation that has poor managers who manage a nation with a kiosk mentality. And because of that, they have made corruption a norm of managing our society, to the extent that corruption has been referred to as cooperation. And that is what the Honorable Kyagulanyi was talking about, the president of the National Unity Platform, that corruption is kind of now a way of life in Uganda. Museveni's government has institutionalized it to that extent that when you are not corrupt, actually the system is likely to weed you out. You look alien when you are not corrupt in Museveni's government. And today, leader of the opposition, with the theme that we are running for this year, we want to tell all Ugandans that together we can fight this corruption and make Uganda a better place for all of us, where people with the taxes that they pay can see services getting closer to them. And yes, I know it can happen. The Auditor General's report of 2023-2024 alluded to the fact that over 316 billion is lost in the medical field due to corruption. And this is out of expired drugs. Can you imagine a country having expired drugs when Ugandans are dying because of lack of medical supplies in the countryside? Over 316 billion going to waste because of corruption. And we know that health nations are built by health populations. And so if you can just not even be mindful enough of a population that you lead, would you really be worthy being called a leader? And I concur with what His Excellency Kyagulanyi said, that it's misrule that is bringing us the far that we have gone. And it's our responsibility to make sure that we fight the mismanagers of our nation. I know that majority of us here went through thick and thin to get to your positions. Just the recent experience of Kawempe tells you where we are going. A lot of money wasted for people to make their decision. And that even when people have made their decision, you still waste a lot of taxpayers' money, you abuse people, you assault people, you insult people, you break people's ribs just because there is an election. What a shame for our leaders. But all this is due to corruption. You know the amount of money that was lost in Kawempe. People, instead of talking about the issues that affect the ordinary citizens, they went on abusing members of the opposition. They have no agenda. They have no agenda. If you have an agenda, why don't you give it to the people so that they can vote you? We know that Museveni's agenda is impoverishing the citizenry of Uganda and making sure that we all remain in this poverty, because it is this poverty that he uses to hold us hostage in our own countries. Can you imagine a country where levels of employment are very low, and that agriculture is the biggest employer of citizens of Uganda, but even agriculture, they still tamper with it? A report from the Ministry of Agriculture indicated that over 445 billion was wasted to corruption out of abuse and misuse of essential inputs in agriculture. And yet I thought that if there is any government that is worth being called a government, would have been so keen on ensuring that they provide water for production, they ensure that people who are involved in the agriculture subsector get the best of what they want. Because this is one of the most employers of our Ugandans, but they still swindle the money from the farmers. What a shame. Leader of opposition, thank you for giving us this opportunity today to let the country know that Uganda is not a poor country, and for Ugandans to understand that corruption has devastating effects on human capital development and social equity of our nation. So the better we fight it before all of us are consumed by this sag of corruption. Ladies and gentlemen, I would not want to take you far because you all know what is happening. Much of the money that is wasted is our money. It's money that you and I pay in form of taxes. When they are wasting it, they don't want to let you know that it's your money. When I was still here as member of Parliament, actually towards the end of our term, Uganda gave a contract to a company which was going to do roads in Congo. I kept asking myself, how do we begin doing roads in Congo when our own roads are still very poor? It's like giving food to the neighbors when your own children are sleeping hungry. And I kept asking myself, yes, it could be that we are getting businesses from Congo. Yes, it could be that possibly we are chasing security. But doesn't it also concern us that these roads are some form of insecurity to our own countrymen and women? Some of the roads that we are supposed to be worked on, I saw a clip of tourists sleeping in the middle of my road, the one taking me to my home from Chikorongo to Bwera. Tourists are taking photos in the ditches. Ugandan roads are becoming tourist attraction sites because of the way they look. Not that they look well, not that really everybody is admiring them, but because of the pitholes that we have. The potholes that we have are making our roads tourist centers. And then you stand here and you say, I'm a leader of a country. I've made your country look great. You've managed us for 40 years. And in 40 years, we still have dilapidated roads. We still have roads that can be used as graves. What a shame. And all this is due to corruption. So having a theme that talks about combating corruption as the only sure way to effective service delivery is a welcome idea. And I would like to equally call upon all of us here, stakeholders, Ugandans, let us make this our issue. Corruption hits all of us. I know that wherever you go, because of corruption, you are now the targets. People begin asking you, honorable, our roads, honorable, our roads. And yet you and I contribute to a central pool where we think that our managers, the managers of this nation, the so-called leaders at the higher level who control taxes, are supposed to answer to some of these concerns. But now it is you who is being asked why the roads are not made. And yet for you, you have done your duty. Continue shouting, continue making noise, continue bringing these issues out. Someday, we shall overcome. But what I know, just like His Excellency, the President of the National Unity Platform said, the only way of ensuring that these ills are done away with in our society is by changing leadership. Because everything else rests upon leadership. We may speak and speak until we change the leadership of this nation. There is nothing much we can do. The only thing is to work harder and ensure that we change leadership of the nation. We get there and give better service, quality service to the population of Uganda. And I think that's why we are here today to say that even when they don't believe us, we can do it.
In real sense, comparing the ideal and the real. That is definitely ideal. And if we do things that way, we can be able to revolutionize every sector in our country. But unfortunately, we have the real to grapple with. We have the reality to deal with here. Nothing encourages, like the theme of today, combating corruption, a sure way of effective service delivery. Yes, combating that corruption. And I'll quote one eminent leader that we have in this country, Mzee Mayengo, Israel, who was speaking a few weeks ago. He said, and I agree with him, that back in the day, President Obote noted that the problem of Uganda and Africa generally is reduced into three things. That is poverty, that is ignorance, and disease. And he was spot on. Today, Mzee Mayengo reduced the problem in Uganda. It is no longer poverty, ignorance, and disease, but it is centrally corruption. Because corruption is the center of all this. I want to salute our parliamentary front for the continued fight. And ladies and gentlemen, indeed there's no better place to talk about corruption than here, the Parliament of Uganda, which has distinguished itself in recent days as the high temple of corruption. I hate to use those words, but if we are to deal with the problem, then understanding it and addressing it in reality is the first step. This parliament has had the most outrageous scandals recently. In recent times, we've seen the Speaker of Parliament with impunity siphoning taxpayers' money. In recent days, we have seen this parliament doing unprecedented things. We've seen in this parliament the Speaker of Parliament and government ministers sharing iron sheets meant for the poorest of the poor in Uganda. It is in this parliament that we've seen the leader of opposition rewarded before he works. It was in this parliament where we saw that so-called service award. And it is this parliament that provoked the conscience of even our young people. We all remember the young people of this nation getting up and deciding to have a march to parliament. Many of them were arrested, as you read in the newspapers, tortured, and even sodomized for daring to counter corruption. For those young people that were trying to make their way to parliament and failed, I thought that maybe today I could try to be their spokesperson, to be their mouthpiece, and say to you what those young people were not able to say. Friends, corruption, I think, has become cliche. It has become, corruption is too cool a name to give to what is being done. A while ago, the head of Transparency International defined corruption, and I agree with him, as the cold and calculated robbery of a people's future, of people's opportunities. And I agree, because it is corruption that has stolen the future of the people of Uganda. Many of you who are under 50 have seen that corruption has robbed all your youthful and useful days from you. Corruption has stolen the vision of Uganda from the people of Uganda. I could go on and on and on about corruption, since we Ugandans all know that our country ranks number 140 out of 180 countries, the most corrupt. That means we're only 40 countries shy from the corruption trophy. A situation where we lose almost half of the revenue collected in Uganda. That corruption should be, looked at as a corruption in crisis level. We are in trouble because of corruption. The Inspector General of Government, the current one, Betty Kamya, who we expect to most understand corruption, defined it, simplified it a few weeks ago in an online video, and I agree with her. She once again told us that we lose to the tune of 10 trillion. I believe it could be more to corruption. But again, she goes further to break it down to us and tell us that out of the 45.9 million Ugandans, it is only 350,000 Ugandans that are in that circle. Now, these are not the people controlling the country or our economy. These are just a group of people that I would call enablers, including some of you members of parliament, including all the people that are being used. But again, she goes further to show us that a small group of people that are even 10% or less of the enablers, that is roughly 35,000 people. This is a small group of people that is milking the entire country, and we all know these are the people that have decided that our country is supposed to go down the drain. Let us imagine what 10 trillion can do. A little while ago, we were imagining what that money can do if corruption was stamped out. 10 trillion lost every year. Imagine what that money can do to our road network. Imagine what that money can do to our hospitals and health centers. Imagine if we set out to use that money to transform our schools. Unfortunately, that money goes to a few. So as we stand here, ladies and gentlemen, we should reflect on so many things that have been said. Otherwise, we'll continue saying it and saying it and saying it. Recently, we lost one of Uganda's international journalists, Shaka Sari, and he was quoted to have said that one of the biggest achievements of the Museveni regime is institutionalizing corruption. And that is true, because we all can realize that corruption is a currency in this regime. Corruption is used to reward the corrupt and to silence or even eliminate those that are fighting it. It is the sure way of General Museveni to hold on to power. And now we are this parliament, I can even dare say that this our parliament has also been reduced. This our parliament, just like the Museveni regime, it attracts the worst of characters and corrupts the best. It is my hope and prayer that our leadership here will not be compromised like it was a while ago. So I want to implore all of you, friends, that you are supposed to be the voice of those people, the majority, that are overtaxed but receive zero or very limited services from the government. I want all of you to know that it is possible if you stand firm. It is hard to stand firm. Our leader of opposition said one time, and I agreed with him, that when you fight corruption, corruption fights back. I just want to assure you, friends, that for those of you who fight corruption, you will never fight alone. We, the people of Uganda, will stand with you. We will back you up. We will fight with you. And as we are taught, a people united cannot be defeated. You won't be defeated. Finally, friends, I also want to mention that corruption, on a close analysis, is but just a symptom of a bigger problem. And that problem is misrule. That problem is dictatorship. That problem is a rulership, not a leadership. A rulership that has no account, that does not feel obliged with the people and is not answerable to the people. Friends, when you see flies hovering over a mess, you don't just spray the flies. You remove the mess and the flies will go away. We need to remove this dictatorship and corruption will be history. Thank you very much for God and my country.